Revenue, and this is a nice easy topic. You need to understand total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue. So some key terms. Revenue is just the income from selling goods and services, and to calculate this you just need to do price times quantity. And then average revenue is your total revenue that you're making divided by the number of units you've had to sell to make that revenue. And it is going to actually represent our demand curve, and we're going to see that in a little bit. And the marginal revenue is the additional revenue that you receive from selling one additional unit of output. So if we have a look at some numbers and some examples of this, let's imagine that if we price an item at £10, we're going to sell one, and if we reduce the price, we're going to get more demand, and so on and so on. So we've got our expected relationship with the demand where it increases as the price decreases. So if we work out total revenue, which is just the price times the quantity, we're going to get those numbers there. And we see the pattern with total revenue in that it increases and then it starts to decrease. As we're reducing the price, we're getting more demand, but actually in total revenue terms we're getting less after a certain point because we're having to reduce the price to get that additional demand there. Average revenue is just your total revenue divided by the quantity, so we can see there that it's equal to the price column that we had. And then marginal revenue is the amount that you get from selling one additional unit. So if we go from 0 units to selling 1, our marginal revenue here is going to be 10. If we go from 1 to 2, the additional that you're getting is actually 8 there. So we see that in that pattern. So it's decreasing, and then after a certain point we start to see it going into the negatives. This is the peak here of 30. So this is what it would look like on a graph. We see total revenue peak at a certain point, and it's actually, it peaks at the point where marginal revenue equals 0, and we can see that happening. And marginal revenue is usually twice the gradient, the steepness of the average revenue curve, as long as your average revenue is linear. But you don't need to, prove that or do anything with that information for A-level exams. And so that's what you get usually in a market situation, and we draw our demand curves like that when we're looking at the market, and we draw them like that when we're looking at imperfect competition, so markets such as monopolies and oligopolies. There's something a little bit different that happens, but they're both, it's a kink demand curve, but it's downward sloping. But when you look at the revenue for perfect competition, and you'll have a look at this in other videos, specifically the perfect competition video, you see that they are what we call price takers, and the price the demand, is horizontal, meaning that it's perfectly elastic, and they're usually such a small supplier to the market that they can just kind of take the market price. So to sell more in the market, they don't need to reduce the price. So this is the demand curve for the individual firm in a perfectly competitive market. And because the price is the same all the way along, the price is all the same all the way along, so the average revenue is the same all the way along, the marginal revenue, the additional that you get, will be equal to the average revenue. And you can see here on this diagram, it's got average revenue equals marginal revenue equals the demand curve, whereas on this one the average revenue was different to the marginal revenue, and this is because it's downward sloping. And this represents, when it's downward sloping, for an individual firm, that represents a market where the firm is a price maker, so they have some control over the price that they can charge. In this market, we have a firm that is a price taker because they just have to take the going market price.